Financial aid is one of the most confusing parts of the college admissions process. It combines three very frustrating things: money, acronyms, and paperwork, which we affectionately call MAP. Just kidding, we'll keep the acronyms to a minimum today since there will be many more to come. You've probably heard of FAFSA, CSS, and EFC, which sound a lot more like European football leagues than steps in a straightforward process. And on top of that, you've got to calculate percentages of percentages in these long numerical formulas. Hi, I'm Moriah, and today we're going to be talking about how to navigate the financial aid process without having to get an accounting license. Namely, we'll be going over the main types of financial aid and how to get them. First, let's talk about financial aid from the federal government. There are three main types: grants, work-study, and subsidized loans. A grant is the simplest form of financial aid. It's literally a block of money dedicated to your education if you qualify. Pell Grants, which you may have heard of, are the most common type of grant from the federal government. The maximum amount you can get from Pell varies from year to year depending on funding availability. But just as an example, this year's maximum is $6,495. Up $150 from last year. Some financial aid is more transactional. Work-study is a job offered by your university to help you pay towards yearly expenses, including tuition. The benefit here is that the resulting paycheck isn't considered when schools are considering your financial need, so that money will go hand in hand with other forms of financial aid rather than detracting from it. An important thing to note is that your income is paid directly to you, so you can choose how much to put back into your tuition. The last form of federal financial aid is student loans, one of the most dreaded parts of academia. However, if these are subsidized as part of your aid package, you won't have to worry about interest building up while you're in college. The federal government will pay that off for you. You'll also enjoy a grace period after you graduate of about 6 months, so you'll have some time to find a job before your first payment is due. The total monetary amount you can get from these increases per year as you get closer to finishing college. But overall, you can get $23,000 total in subsidized loans throughout all 4 years. Each of these aid types can help, but even all of them combined will rarely be enough to pay for 4 years at a major university. This brings us to the other main form of financial aid from schools themselves. But before we dive in, let's first briefly go over how you'll actually apply for financial aid. Every student applying for financial aid will at some point have to fill out the free application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA. This form acts like a formula, kind of like a 1040 for you parents out there. You put in how much you make, how much you own, and the online form spits out a number. That number is your expected family contribution, or EFC, which is how much the federal government thinks your family can afford to pay towards college each year. If the total cost of college for you, including tuition, room, and board, is higher than that EFC number, then the difference is called your demonstrated need. It's demonstrated because you've shown you can't cover it, and need because you still need to come up with it to pay for college. If your family income is low enough, you could have an EFC of 0, in which case your demonstrated need will be the entire cost of college. Okay, so you fill out the FAFSA to figure out your EFC and demonstrated need. Any federal awards you get will then form the baseline of your financial aid. If you still have demonstrated need after those Pell Grants, you'll need to look to colleges for further help. This brings us to school-based aid, which is there to fill in the gaps between your EFC and federal aid benefits. Keep in mind, though, that some schools calculate EFC a little differently than the FAFSA. These mostly private colleges use something called the College Scholarship Service, or CSS, which is a form you would have to fill out alongside the FAFSA. It considers a few more types of property, like small businesses, and therefore tends to spit out a higher EFC than the FAFSA. But that also makes it more forgiving of special circumstances. From here, once a school has calculated your demonstrated need, each of them will have its own policies regarding how much they'll actually cover. Only 21 schools, think Harvard or Brown, offer to pay for 100% of demonstrated need without using loans. This is them essentially just giving you money on top of Pell Grants, no loans needed. The only thing you'll need to be on the hook for is your expected family contribution, which you may still need loans to cover depending on your family's circumstances. Another 54 schools, like UCLA or Tufts, will meet 100% of demonstrated need, but consider subsidized loans as part of their aid package. This means you'll have to max out on federal subsidized loans before the school will award you any money. It's better than having to take out loans with full interest, but will still be a burden down the line. Finally, if your school doesn't meet 100% of demonstrated need, which most don't, then you'll be left with what is called a gap in your award offer. This is money that you'll have to come up with on top of your expected family contribution. In all likelihood, that will probably be more loans, interest and all. But there are some exceptions, and you can sometimes negotiate for a more generous package, especially if you get into a school that covers more aid than the one you plan to go to, which may prompt that school to offer you a higher reward so that way you'll actually still attend. And that's it. You apply for federal aid, you receive what you're qualified for, and the rest is up to your college of choice. You'll probably have more questions on some of the specifics, so be sure to check out our blog and linked resources below. You can also visit collegefind.com for free to compare your expected financial aid at different schools, as well as our chancing engine and all of your other admissions-related needs. Thanks for watching, best of luck, and see you again next time.